morning and greetings from the city of Gloucester in the United Kingdom. I would like to thank HKC AAVQ, QFS and FST for inviting me to speak at your annual conference. And of course it's a special 30-year celebration of HKC AAVQ's assurance of quality of education and training in Hong Kong SAR and in the region, and in that time becoming globally recognised as a leader in quality assurance and a valuable partner for many other quality bodies. Of course, I would much rather be there with you in person. I was looking forward to my first visit to Hong Kong and to spending time with Albert, Zhao and colleagues from HKC AVQ, who are very good friends of QA, and hopefully travelling on to meet other partners in the region. Of course, ongoing travel restrictions and quarantine meant that just wasn't possible. And so I missed the chance to meet and greet old friends, but hopefully can make new ones through this connection. These changes due to COVID-19 and how we interact has been reflected across the globe. All of us adapting the ways of working simply unimaginable a year ago. Albert Einstein once said, "Adversity introduces a man to himself," and excusing the very gender-specific nature of that quote, I believe the sentiment applies to whole sectors. In adversity, there has been innovation and change. It has introduced the higher education sector to itself and the ways that it can work. In May this year, QA hosted an international partners forum. We had 27 representatives of QA agencies and national higher education bodies from 22 countries around the world, coming together to share their experiences and approaches in response to the pandemic. How they have responded to the need to keep their students and staff safe while continuing to deliver quality higher education society and the economy needs. I was struck by the innovation and the ingenuity displayed from our colleagues, as well as the potential scope and likelihood for long-term change emerging as a result of this innovation. In almost every country, campuses have been closed and institutions needed to adopt alternative forms of delivery in their primarily in-person, on-site approach. Perhaps the most dominant theme to emerge from our forum was that agencies had all recognised the need for flexibility in their approaches and methodologies for regulation and quality assurance. The ways that these have been implemented, whether through modifying regulations, easing change reporting requirements, adopting virtual review approaches, or using flexible interpretations of standards and other criteria, has shown how quality assurance agencies were able to adapt, able to balance the need to enhance and maintain quality and standards, and at the same time making allowances to adapt to extraordinary circumstances. Our event also highlighted key issues shared globally by HE sectors and brought them into sharper focus. Discussion covered areas such as digital poverty, access issues, the student learning experience online, and flexibility of delivery modes. These are all key matters to quality enhancement or improvement. And as quality enhancement from a UK perspective is the title of my presentation, in considering this, I'll be looking at how some of the themes I've just touched on have applied in the UK, but could have broader applicability. The focus on enhancement at this conference reflects the journey that QAA has also been on in recent years. Providing assurance of standards in higher education has always been integral to QAA's work. Working with institutions, funding bodies and regulators across the UK to set national expectations and also assure that individual institutions meet those expectations. However, working across the sector to enhance the student experience and improve the quality of learning opportunities provided by a university has increasingly provided an institutional focus. Enhancement has always been an important element of QA's work, particularly in Scotland, which is an enhancement-based and evidence-led method of institutional review. I'll consider that in a bit more detail later. Now, and following QA's move to a different type of organisation, partly a membership organisation, in 2019, our work for members across all nations is increasingly focused on helping them enhance the quality of their provision. Our own organisation has adapted and changed from partly a function of regulation, a membership organisation to support enhancement, and also commercial activities. Of course, COVID-19 has shaped all our considerations of quality enhancement this year, but it's not the only consideration. And I'll also be looking at some of the wider issues currently relevant to UK higher education. But before I do so, and in recognition of the 30th anniversary celebration of our friends in HKC AVQ, I'd like to spend a few moments reflecting on what has been and remains a very special relationship between our agencies. QA is very proud of our strong strategic partnership with HKC AVQ, underpinned by our Memorandum of Understanding, first signed in 2008. The introduction to the most recent memorandum signed last year by myself and Executive Director Albert Chow, I feel encapsulates the shared commitment to good practice and the student interest, and has allowed us to progress further reciprocal provision and share data across borders. It's also reflected in HKC AVQ's 2019 to 2023 strategic plan, with its emphasis on quality enhancement and excellence. Cooperation and joint review activity has also underpinned our 2018 review of UK transnational education in Hong Kong, which found, and I quote, that UK TNE was an essential and embedded part of the higher education landscape, focused on the needs of the student population and local industry, and meeting rigorous UK criteria for academic standards and quality. A key part of QA's approach to our assurance and review of transnational education is working in partnership with local agencies. Our cooperation in this review with HKC AVQ benefited not only the 25,000 students studying UK HE qualifications in Hong Kong, but also allows us to deepen reciprocal understanding and trust in each other's quality assurance systems as we plan future collaboration. Of course, for many years now, we've collaborated with HKC AVQ beyond our respective territories. QAA was the first international body granted observer status of the Asia Pacific Quality Network, and we have worked on many occasions with our colleagues in Hong Kong there. We're also both members of the Cross-Border Quality Assurance Network, led from agencies based in the People's Republic of China. And we work closely with our colleagues there as well, and in 2018 I signed a Memorandum of Understanding with the Director General of the CGDGC, acknowledging a shared commitment to the advancement of quality assurance in Chinese higher education. I also signed a further Memorandum of Understanding with the Secretary General of the CEAIE, confirming a commitment to joint research into regulatory and quality assurance related issues of mutual interest, and to carry out wherever possible joint review of TNE and other projects. The work we do with our international partners is focused not only on our joint commitment to quality assurance, but also to quality enhancement. To take one example, QA's 2018 publication, Enterprise and Entrepreneurship in Education, epitomises the importance of an enhancement-driven approach. The guidance provides interventions that are focused on supporting behaviours, attributes and competencies that are likely to have a significant impact on the individual student in terms of successful careers. It does this, for example, by encouraging institutions to provide enhanced impact through placements and activities that build links between academic institutions and external organisations, or by signposting and building student experience beyond the specific teaching activity so that students can access relevant business skills assessments. The document has been translated into Mandarin Chinese so as to be more widely available for institutions and students, and to provide support in enhancing the quality of higher education. So at QAA, we've got much to look forward to in terms of international collaboration with yourselves and other partner organisations across the world. Since we worked with you to produce a country report for Hong Kong, QA has collaborated with national agencies to produce similar reports for Sri Lanka, Malaysia, Ukraine, Nigeria, Thailand and the Republic of the Philippines. Working with our counterpart national agencies has been invaluable in developing networks and partnerships for quality assurance and enhancement to the benefit of all. Building on this, future approaches to UK transnational education are currently being developed. We've recently undertaken a consultation with UK higher education representative bodies, Universities UK International and Guild HE, to ask our sector how they would like to see UK TNE develop. They have told us that they want to see a system where a programme of activities and resources are complemented by an in-country review schedule with a UK-wide approach. We're now producing the draft method to consult with our UK higher education providers, but also seeking views internationally. We've been commissioned to start a new programme of in-country review in 2021. And I'm delighted to say that already 11 agencies from around the world have offered their assistance, including colleagues from HKC AVQ willing to comment on our developments. This external perspective allows us to get better and improve and deliver a higher quality product for our own institutions, and also to meet the local needs of other regulators and quality bodies. So turning back now to the UK and to our current approaches to quality enhancement, I mentioned just now that respondents to the TNE consultation favoured a UK-wide approach. This is important, as when I speak to colleagues around the world about UK higher education and its reputation, colleagues understand and see the UK, although many understand that we have 4 nations in England, Scotland, Wales and Northern Ireland. I've always argued, and will continue to do so, that the strength of our higher education system lies in the collective of these 4 nations working together. Despite this, it is important to remember that our 4 nations of the UK have devolved higher education systems. And we've seen some reform on that basis. In 2018, England saw the introduction of a new regulator, the Office for Students, an important body which maintains a register of all English higher education providers, and with QA designated by the government to undertake quality reviews and standards reviews of institutions on that register. Meanwhile, Scotland's approach to external review is based on enhancement. Wales has recently moved to an enhancement model, and Northern Ireland is certainly focusing its own thinking on enhancement approaches. The challenge for QA as the only body with responsibility for quality and standards across the whole of the UK is how to operate in a way that respects these different approaches while maintaining a cohesion that assists each nation and the collective as a whole. We are helped in this by a joint commitment across institutions of all nations to quality assurance underpinned by the UK Quality Code for Higher Education. The code, developed by QA and partners, sets out a framework for common and core practices relating to standards and quality in each nation in a way that can be applied flexibly in its own regulatory system. So we have both flexibility and consistency. QA has a role in all nations, the quality assurance processes, and the Quality Code is a key tool that allows us to judge if institutions are effectively meeting national thresholds. Operating across 4 jurisdictions encourages us to think flexibly and with agility, and allows us to pass on emerging and effective practice that enhances the student experience across the UK and beyond. Of course, it would be misleading to say there are never tensions or friendly disagreements between our 4 nations. But the point is not that tensions can exist, but despite some occasional disagreements, the brand of UK higher education is strong and we are all committed to it. And this is something that, regardless of jurisdiction, our sector takes pride in. All UK nations working together under umbrellas such as the UK Standing Committee for Quality Assessment. This collaboration allows us to look at effective enhancement practice in individual nations and see how they might be applied in other nations. And as an example, I will drill down in some detail to how we have worked in Scotland, which is distinctively Scottish, but has lessons for any country in the world. I mentioned earlier that we have an enhancement-based approach to quality review in Scotland, and the model provides an example of how we can operate over a long period of time. The process of enhancement-led institutional review is indicative of that focus. It provides an evidence-based method of peer review, meaning that staff and students from other institutions, as teams of reviewers, come to assess how institutions are performing. In addition, all stakeholders with an interest in Scottish HE, institutions, student organisations, the Funding Council and other agencies engage in 3 yearly enhancement themes. The most recent theme from 2017 to 20 was improving the student experience. While time doesn't allow me to look in detail at the outcomes in the theme, I would recommend visiting the Enhancement Themes website. But to give a flavour of our work, in 2019 we had 3 key strands of activity: student engagement, understanding evidence, and supporting staff and students to use evidence. Wherever possible, students themselves would lead on project work. Good practice was shared across institutions and the wider sector via collaborative clusters. Outcomes and evaluation would be produced periodically, and at the end of the theme, with shared learning a priority. And the themes, finding and outcomes are showcased via every 3 years an international enhancement themes conference, attracting colleagues from across the world. The new theme, running from this year through to 2023, is called Resilient Learning Communities. Never have we needed something so as important as to develop resilient learning communities. We will explore the changing needs of values of an increasingly diverse student community and a rapidly changing external environment. Amongst the questions it will ask are, what will learning communities look like by 2023? How can we prepare for the learning communities of the future? And how should we anticipate, influence and respond to the changing external world? Well, these are questions specifically being asked by the Scottish sector. They are relevant to all UK institutions, and we will be working to extend that type of work in the UK and across the world. We operate in particularly challenging times, and resilience is key for the future. At QA, we aim to use the work of the themes in collaboration with colleagues in other countries to share practice and try and answer these questions. Before I move on to some of the specific issues that have risen as a result of COVID-19, I'd now like to consider some of the wider issues that exist in UK higher education and what QA's role has been in addressing this. In recent years, universities and colleges and the wider system have sometimes been challenged over the value that higher education brings. Over the last 2 decades, the number of UK students entering higher education has increased. Statistics vary according to source, but the number participating is generally accepted to be around 50%. This concept of the increased participation is sometimes given the rather impersonal term of massification. But it means that more students are graduating and from wider demographics than in previous decades. Many students are now graduating proudly, being able to say they're the first member of their family to have been to a university. In my opinion, widening participation has been one of the greatest success stories of UK higher education, and QA has played a small part in that, in our regulation of what is known as the Access to Higher Education Diploma, where around 25,000 students every year, people who left school with little or no qualifications, come back and do an adult learning-focused diploma that gets them entry into university. But while this is something UK higher education and wider society should be proud of, there are also questions being asked by politicians, in the media, and by the wider public as to whether this is entirely a positive development. Are there too many students? We asked. Are some universities and courses not providing value for the fees paid? Are there too many students getting first class or upper second class honours? These are entirely legitimate questions to ask. In any system, universities are autonomous, but they are also accountable. Politicians, parents and students need to be reassured that a university experience will bring benefit not only to students, but to wider society and ultimately to the global economy. Now, the issues I've spoken about are extremely complex, and unfortunately it is not within the scope of this presentation to go into detail about the merits either way. But after a career spent in higher education, I remain committed to the principle that while higher education isn't for everyone, in the vast majority of cases it brings benefits to those who go. Many countries have high levels of participation in higher education, and the benefits are evident not only in wealth, but in health and in well-being. However, as Chief Executive of the only body entrusted with quality and standards across the UK, I always have to take concerns expressed about quality seriously. So we've been working with partners across the sector to listen to concerns and take action if needed and provide reassurance. We've worked with sector agencies to develop what we call degree outcome statements. Institutions will publish these to evidence the basis for their degree awards. Thanks to partnerships we've undertaken with other sector agencies, the UK Framework for Higher Education Qualifications now contains a descriptor of the 4 levels of bachelor's honours degrees. And we've developed guidance for universities and colleges to help them combat the threat posed by SEMLs. These are only a few examples of the work we are undertaking in partnership across the sector to help demonstrate the value of higher education in safeguarding standards and providing the best possible outcomes for students. I've made many references to partnership in this presentation, and if there is one theme that I wish to draw out, it is the importance of partnership. Whatever challenges are faced or opportunities identified, QA will seek to collaborate with universities, with regulators, with governments and sector agencies to find common ground and solutions. We see our role as helping to facilitate bringing together autonomous institutions to develop sector-driven approaches to standards and quality. And nowhere has this collegiate approach been more apparent than in our response to the COVID-19 pandemic. Since UK higher education institutions stopped physical teaching in March, we have sought to facilitate and support them as they move into new forms of provision and prepare for a unique academic experience as we reopen in a new academic year. I don't need to tell you that the challenges faced by universities and higher education institutions across the world have been significant. How do we keep students and staff safe in the new academic year? How do we develop blended or hybrid models of teaching and learning to combine in-person and digitally delivered provision? How do we support the well-being and mental health of a new generation of students and the staff when many students have not engaged in formal learning since the start of the year? And how do we support transitions of students into their new institution? In saying that, we also have to think about returning students and the disruption to their experience. Ultimately, these are questions that have to be answered by individual institutions and individual countries. But each nation and the institutions within it are unique and face different challenges. In the UK, QA's role is not to tell universities what to do, but to support them in making decisions, making them aware of emerging practice and pose the reflective questions they should be asking. The guidance that we produced in response to COVID will often be underpinned by principles based on the core and common practices from the Quality Code. So, for example, our guidance, Preserving Quality and Standards Through a Time of Rapid Change, UK Higher Education in 2021, sets out the following 4 principles. 1, that any move to on-site activity is safe and secure for staff and students. 2, that degree awarding bodies maintain quality and standards in the move to flexible provision. 3, that providers engage with students and staff in planning changes to delivery and assessment of teaching and learning. And 4, that provider planning scenarios are flexible and responsive to student needs. And indeed, I would add to that now, in response to the development of the pandemic, as we increasingly across the world see more localised versions of lockdowns. Ultimately, and this is a point I don't think can be stressed enough, the work we are doing in support of the sector is not about trying to ensure that UK higher education's response to COVID-19 aims to be good enough to meet a baseline of standards. It is about supporting innovation and new practice to enhance the student experience. Of course, there will be challenges, as the coming academic year will show, but part of QA's role must be to constantly seek improvement, constantly encourage enhancement. So, for example, our guidance, Enhancing Quality in Digital Learning Environments, aims to help providers develop a toolkit in order to enhance the quality of digital learning for their students. Key to this and other guidance published in response to COVID-19 are the reflective questions we suggest institutions consider in order to best enhance the student experience, and of course according to the specific circumstances of their institution. So, the Enhancing Quality in Digital Learning asks, for example, which institutional strategies specifically accommodate digital teaching and learning? Do they align and support each other? Are educational objectives and/or pedagogical theory and models driving the focus of digital teaching and learning at a strategic level? And how are students with specific learning difficulties accommodated within digital teaching and learning approaches? In developing this and other pieces of guidance, we draw heavily on the work of our enhancement themes mentioned earlier, as well as other enhancement-led activity. An enhancement-led focus means that we are not only looking at meeting the challenges of the day, but also thinking about what this means for the future of higher education. So we've been working with professional, statutory and regulatory bodies, facilitating liaison with the sector to look at how adapted higher education provision will need of the regulatory bodies and the professions for employment to help graduates into their future careers. We're facilitating a working group that is looking at the English credit framework and how the sector can evolve to allow flexibility for students to undertake a greater range of study, and in particular, how do we look at credit-bearing awards that might be needed for people who want to move from employment into study back into employment. And we've produced advice and guidance encourage institutions to develop a taxonomy of digital provision, so that providers are able to build a common language to describe digital approaches to programme delivery and support them in setting students' expectations of their programmes. These and other projects are intended to build on the innovation of higher education sectors across the world have shown in meeting the challenges of COVID-19. But they're also intended to seek the opportunities that will come from looking at the way in which we deliver higher education and how we can bring permanent improvement, how we can enhance. Because of this, I'm confident that the UK sector will not only successfully emerge from COVID-19, but also will do with permanent beneficial change. And this is an important message for us to you, our international friends and colleagues. It is well known that the UK is a popular destination for international students. There are 16,000 students from Hong Kong studying at UK universities and 120,000 students from China. Although it is still too early to say with certainty, there are signs that widespread concerns in the UK that COVID-19 would impact on international student recruitment. This has not been realised. Our hope and belief is that international students still value the opportunity of the UK higher education as highly as ever. It is important for us, though, that all of our international students arrive confident in the education they will receive and leave with an outstanding education and social experience. So in anticipation of this, I particularly want to impress on you that the work of our sector in the UK in recent months has been focused on making sure that all of our students, whether from the UK, from the EU, or for further afield, are welcomed, are safe, and will benefit from their time in our country. Of course, the next academic year will present challenges, but for students arriving from Hong Kong, from China, and from nations around the world, I am positive it will be a rewarding experience. We're looking forward to welcome them. We work in a world of higher education where we change people's lives, where people come in and leave with new experiences and move forward to new careers. In our common endeavours in QA and HKC AVQ, we have a growing and developing partnership of which we are immensely proud. I would like to thank Albert Chow and his colleagues for giving me the privilege to address your important conference. As we work together in the interests of students and the institutions we serve, I think we will achieve great things and future success. Just to reiterate, we value our relationship. We really enjoy our time together and working with you, and I wish you all the best in this, your important 30th anniversary. And I would like to thank you for taking the time to come and listen to me.